I voted against the budget for that reason, and I will continue to oppose changes in both the copay schedule and the eligibility criteria. And I will also insist that we get guidance from the Attorney General as to whether or not we are supposed to be following the rulemaking provisions of the Administrative Procedures Act.
Basically, you think the legislature ought to have a crack at determining whether they approve the...
Well, the law, and I've got the statute if you want to see it. I mean, the statute, the statute says that no commission can increase fees when the legislature is not in session.
Okay.
In addition to that, when you go through rulemaking, you give people the opportunity, unlike what the chairman did today, where as a sort of very perfunctory matter, he let someone speak for 2 minutes. Under the rulemaking process, one is supposed to give public notice, give an opportunity for comments and feedback as the deliberative body is considering. Those comments then go into the record that are submitted to the governor and to the legislature. In this particular case, there's also a provision which is supposed to be followed in which under, I think it's called the Small Business Flexibility Act, any proposed rule which will have an adverse impact on small businesses, and child care represents a proliferation of small businesses, has to be reviewed against what the economic impact would be against the small businesses. And there's actually even a small business review committee that is operated under the auspices of the Oklahoma Department of Commerce, which is then supposed to be able to review comments received from the small business community. So I think as a matter of law, there are numerous state and federal requirements that we have to follow before it's appropriate to be enacting any kind of copay increase, even if that were good policy, which I don't believe it is.
Do you think this was done to placate you or hold off on a potential lawsuit, or what do you think?
I can't answer that. I mean, I specifically requested of the director that he make the recommendation to defer any implementation date. I was very disturbed to learn that notice had already gone out to clients and to providers and to across the state that the copay increase and the changes in eligibility were going to take effect, when I had specifically questioned whether or not they should or shouldn't. So I was delighted to see that the recommendation was made to defer that, and I presume that the communication will happen quickly out to clients and to providers and to affected parties that the commission has deferred this.
So you're pleased the deferral, but had to vote against it because you thought it was not proper all?
Well, it still was not appropriate to be voting on as a regular agenda item. Any potential change in the Appendix C4, Oklahoma's Administrative Procedures Act says that an appendix is a rule. So the provisions of the APA, as I understand the APA, require that we go through the rulemaking process. I specifically asked, I sit on the Rules Committee, and I specifically asked the chair of the Rules Committee to have this go through the rulemaking process, and that request was not agreed to.
Okay.
So as a result of this, and obviously you think the budget was not proper even before it was voted on, but now this money that was supposed to be raised by the increased copay and reduced eligibility is not going to be there for the budget. What does this mean for the budget as it currently exists, and how do you deal with that?
The budget projected almost a $15 million budget surplus. I recall that I'll look at what the exact fiscal impact of the copay increases was, but I seem to remember it was in the order of $7 or $8 million. So there's still plenty of money for the Oklahoma to go through this year, end up with a budget surplus, and not impose any illegal fee increases on clients without complying with the Administrative Procedures Act.